Hello students, today I have come up with the next part of the chapter chemical bonding from class 11 syllabus. So today we will study that what is bond dissociation energy. So what is bond dissociation energy? It is basically the amount of energy which is required to break a bond between two atoms in the gaseous state, means this molecule has to be in the gaseous state, and the amount of energy that is required to break this bond of the molecule in the gaseous state, resulting in the formation of gaseous atom or free radicals. A and B free radicals. So it is the amount of energy which is required to break this bond. Now in case of a molecule in which there are more than one bonds, then the bond dissociation energies or bond dissociation enthalpies of all the bonds will be averaged to get the bond enthalpy or bond energy. Okay, so this is about bond dissociation enthalpy or energy. Now we'll come to the factors on which it depends. Okay, so the first factor is size of the bonded atoms. Now see, if the bonded atoms are bigger in size, then the bond distance, means the bond length, will increase because of the increase in the size. And when the bond length increases, this bond becomes weaker. Longer bond length means weaker bond, shorter bond length means greater overlap, means stronger bond. So this bond length, longer bond length means weaker bond. As a result, bond strength decreases. When bond strength is decreased, so a very less amount of energy is required to break the bond. Hence, the bond dissociation energy decreases with increase in the size of the bonded atoms. Okay, so the next factor is bond multiplicity. Earlier only, when I was explaining the factors of bond length, I have told that single bond has the greatest bond length, followed by double bond, and triple bond has the shortest bond length. So here only I have said, when the bond length increases, the bond strength decreases, and hence the bond dissociation energy also decreases. But in case of bond multiplicity, for triple bond or for double bond, for triple bond the bond strength is the highest, and so a very large amount of energy will be required to break the triple bond. So the bond dissociation energy is highest for triple bond and followed by double bond, and the bond dissociation energy is lowest for single bond. So single bond, double bond and triple bond. Okay, so the next factor is number of lone pairs on the bonded atoms. I have to rub this for showing that. So the next factor is number of lone pairs on the bonded atoms. The electron-electron repulsion between the lone pairs of electrons means I'll show you with one example, like I'm showing you with the example of water. In water, there are two lone pairs on oxygen atom. Okay, see, the lone pairs are basically the lone pairs of electrons. So they all have the negative charge. So the negative charges will try to repel each other. So there is a strong repulsion between the lone pairs. So lone pair repulsion takes place if there are lone pairs on the bonded atoms. And if there is like in ammonia, there is one lone pair of electrons, then repulsion takes place between lone pair and bond pair. Okay. So the lone pair repulsion, the electron repulsion basically decreases the bond dissociation enthalpy. It basically decreases the bond dissociation enthalpy. As a result, the bond dissociation enthalpy of carbon-carbon is always greater than that of oxygen-oxygen, which is greater than that of fluorine-fluorine bond. Why? Because in carbon-carbon bond, on carbons, there are no lone pairs. Zero lone pair. On oxygen, there are two lone pairs. On fluorine, there are three lone pairs. LP means lone pairs. Okay, so this is number of lone pairs on the bonded atoms. Next is the type of hybridization. Type of hybridization. Okay, so the bond dissociation energy depends on the type of hybridization. Basically, hybridization type means basically it depends on the S character. Means the bond dissociation enthalpy increases with the increase in S character of the orbitals, but hybrid orbitals, but decreases with the increasing P character of the hybrid orbitals. We all know that the S character of the sp hybrid orbital is the highest, followed by sp2, followed by sp3. So the bonds formed by the atoms, which means the bonds formed by the means the combination of S and 1p is much more strong as compared to 1s and 3p's. Okay, so sp, the atoms having sp hybridization, the bonds formed by sp hybridization are much stronger than those formed by sp3. So they have the highest bond dissociation enthalpy and they have the lowest bond dissociation enthalpy. Now obviously I'll come to the types of bonds. We know that there are two types of bonds, sigma bond and pi bond. The last factor is type of bond. Remember always the sigma bond is much stronger than the pi bond. The sigma bond is much stronger than the pi bond. So the bond dissociation enthalpy is greater for sigma bond as compared to pi bond. Okay, so these are the factors on which the bond dissociation enthalpy depends. Now I will come to the next parameter, which is the bond angle. Bond angle is easy. See, from I won't rub this. We generally represent bond angle like this. H, O, H for water. The bond angle for this is 104.28, means 104 degree 28 minute. Okay, we generally represent bond angle like this, HOH, like that. It is the angle formed between three atoms that form a molecule. So next we will come to the factors. Among the factors, the first factor is type of hybridization. Type of hybridization. Bond angle basically depends on the hybridization of the central atom present in a molecule. So in case of I'll write this. In case of sp3 hybridization, the bond angle is 109 degree 28 minute. In case of sp2, the bond angle is 120 degree. In case of sp, the bond angle is 180 degree. Okay, so it basically depends on the hybridization of the central atom. Next, three factors. Next, there are three factors. One is the number of lone pairs on the central atom. Next is electronegativity of central atom, and the last one is electronegativity of atoms bonded to central atom. These three factors I will explain to you with the help of VSEPR theory. I won't explain these three factors at this moment. After this only I'll start with the rules of VSEPR theory. I will explain these three factors with the help of VSEPR theory only directly. Okay, so let's come to valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, which in short is known as VSEPR theory. VSEPR theory. Valence shell electron pair repulsion. Okay, so what is the importance of VSEPR theory? With the help of octet rule, we were unable to depict the shapes of the covalent molecules. But with the help of VSEPR theory, we will be able to depict the shapes of the molecules. So, molecules means obviously covalent molecules. So, let's start with the rules of VSEPR theory. We have the first rule. This is rule 1. What does rule 1 state? Rule 1 states that the shape of the covalent molecules will be depicted by the valence electron pairs present on the central atom. Now, I will come up with certain examples. Before that, I'll just show you a chart. Okay, I'll show the chart this side and that side I'll explain. Okay, now this is the chart which is required in order to depict the shape of the molecules. Now these are the number of bond pairs. Bond pairs means an electron, we all know that one electron pair will form a single bond. So bond pairs means one pair forming one bond. Okay, so if there are two bond pairs, this means that two bonds are formed. If there are three bond pairs, which means three bonds are formed. But remember always that the bond pairs are generally formed by the valence shell electrons of the central atom as well as the valence shell electron of the atoms bonded to the central atom. Okay, so the first rule states that the electron pairs which are present in the valence shell, they will form the, means they are responsible for the shapes of the covalent compounds. Now I'll come to certain examples. Like, see, this is carbon. I will not come to 1s because 1s is the inner orbital and that is not involved in bonding. Mainly for carbon, 2s and 2p orbitals are involved in bonding. So I won't draw 1s. This is 2s. We know that it is 2s2, 2p, 2 for carbon. But you can see that there is one orbital which is empty. It can accommodate two electrons as well. So carbon will go to the excited state. In the excited state, what will happen? One electron from the 2s will be promoted to the 2p. Like this. Now see, there are 4 orbitals Each can accommodate 2 electrons, but now each of the orbitals are singly filled. So, I will show you the bonding in methane. So, what will happen? Hydrogens. Four hydrogens. You know that each of the hydrogen has one valence electron. So 4 hydrogens will share one electron with the carbon. As a result, see, 4 covalent bonds are formed. 4 covalent bonds are formed, and these are known as the bond pairs. What are bond pairs? Bond pairs are those in which one electron is shared by the central atom and the other electron is shared by the constituent atom. So these are known as bond pairs. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 bond pairs present. See, for number of bond pairs 4, we have the shape tetrahedral. Tetrahedral is like this. Okay, so this is methane. This is methane. Okay. Now I need to explain you another thing. See in methane, all are bond pairs. All are bond pairs. This was rule number 1, that the shapes depend on the valence shell electron pairs. See, the valence shell electron pairs are determining you the shape. Because with the help of number of bond pairs, you are getting the shape of the molecule. Now, in methane molecule, we do not have any lone pair. But the rule was that the shape depends on the valence shell electron pairs. Electron pairs means it consists both the lone pairs as well as the bond pairs. Now I will come to another molecule in which we will have lone pair. So let's come to ammonia. Let's come to ammonia. Nitrogen. Again, we will not show the 1s. Nitrogen is, in the ground state, nitrogen is 2s2, 2p3. See, nitrogen in the ground state is 2s2, 2p3. So, no vacant orbital is present in nitrogen. So, nitrogen in ammonia. So, nitrogen in ammonia. 3 hydrogen will share one electron each with the 3 electrons of nitrogen. See, here we are having 1, 2, 3 bond pairs and 1 lone pair. So here we are having 1 lone pair and 3 bond pair. Or I'll show this in small. 3 bond pairs and 1 lone pair. Ammonia also has a tetrahedral structure. Ammonia also will show you the structure of tetrahedral, means the ideal structure is tetrahedral, but actually it is not tetrahedral. it will show you the ideal structure as tetrahedral because it involves 1s and 3p orbitals. 1s and 3p orbitals means the structure is, the ideal shape is tetrahedral, but the actual shape will never be tetrahedral. Why? Because here is one lone pair present. The actual shape will not be tetrahedral. We can call the actual shape as trigonal pyramidal. It has a shape of trigonal pyramidal. So, why did I show you this molecule structure like this again? In order to explain that there is an extra effect of a lone pair. Means in methane we only had bond pairs. So here the structures we are getting, the shapes we are getting only depends on the bond pairs. But the lone pair has an extra effect on the shape of the molecule. So not only the bond pairs but the lone pairs will also help to depict you the shape of the covalent molecule. Okay. So, now I'll come to another example. Water. Oxygen. Oxygen in the ground state will have 2s2, 2p4. We know that there are no vacant orbitals left. So, oxygen in water. It cannot go to excited state. So, oxygen in water. So, oxygen in water, remember all these are sigma bonds. So, oxygen in water, 1, 2, there are 2 lone pairs. What are lone pairs? The pairs which are not involved in bonding. So, 2 lone pairs. Along with that, there are 2 bond pairs. 2 lone pairs and 2 bond pairs. But see, total there are 4 electron pairs, 2 lone pairs plus 2 bond pairs, 4 electron pairs. So the ideal structure has to be tetrahedral, but it is not tetrahedral. Why? Because of the presence of the lone pairs. The ideal structure is tetrahedral, but the actual shape is not tetrahedral. It is called angular or V-shaped. Okay, so both the lone pairs as well as the bond pairs determine the shape of the covalent molecule. This is the rule 1. Okay. Next, I'll come to rule 2. Rule 2 states that Rule 2 states that lone pair repulsion is greater than lone pair bond pair repulsion, which in turn is greater than bond pair repulsion. For this reason, we will again draw the 3 molecules structure. This is the structure of methane. This is the structure of ammonia, and this is the actually water structure is drawn like this. This is the structure of water. In methane, bond angle is 109 degree 28 minute. Tetrahedral's ideal bond angle 109.28. In ammonia, it is the N, it is HCH bond angle 109 degree 28 minute. For ammonia, it is 107 degree 48 minutes. H bond angle 107 degree 48 minute. For water, it is 104 degree 28 minute. HOH bond angle 104 degree 28 minutes. See, all the structure, all these three molecules should have an ideal structure, ideal shape of tetrahedral. All these three should have an ideal shape of tetrahedral. But see, methane has a tetrahedral structure, but these two's actual shape is, this one is pyramidal and this one is angular or V-shaped. The actual shape changes because of the presence of lone pair. Now there is a change in bond angle as well. The ideal bond angle for tetrahedral geometry is 109 degree 28 minutes. But here we are seeing for ammonia as well as for water, the bond angle decreases. Now why this happens? It is evident that in methane we do not have any lone pair. There are only 4 bond pairs. 4 bond pairs. In ammonia we have 1 lone pair and 3 bond pair. In water we have 2 lone pair and 2 bond pairs. Now the rule is lone pair repulsion is greater than lone pair bond pair repulsion. See, in methane we do not have any lone pair, so there is no question of lone pair as well as lone pair bond pair repulsion. There is only bond pair repulsion, and all the bond pairs are same, so the bond pair repulsion is same for all the CH bonds. And we have the ideal bond angle here. In case of ammonia, there is only 1 lone pair. So there is no question of lone pair repulsion. But there is only lone pair bond pair repulsion and bond pair repulsion. Repulsion, bond pair repulsion means repulsion between the two bonds, means this bond is formed by 2 electrons, this bond is also formed by 2 electrons. Repulsion between these two bond pairs. And lone pair bond pair repulsion means repulsion between this lone pair and this bond pair, between this lone pair and this bond pair. And lone pair repulsion means here there are 2 lone pairs, the repulsion between these 2 lone pairs, that is lone pair repulsion. See, in ammonia we have only lone pair bond pair repulsion and bond pair repulsion. So because of the lone pair bond pair repulsion, these bond angles will shrink like this. Bonds will shrink like this because they will move away from this lone pair. Bonds will shrink like this. So the bond angle decreases. But look at water, there is lone pair bond pair repulsion also, lone pair repulsion also, lone pair bond pair repulsion also, bond pair repulsion also. But the lone pair repulsion is the strongest. So these 2 lone pairs will undergo repulsion. This lone pair bond pair repulsion will also occur. Lone pair bond pair repulsion will also occur. they will, like this, they will occur, and they will shrink the HOH bond angle. The bond angle will be shrink like this, and hence we have a reduced bond angle here. Okay, so this is rule 2. Now I'll come to rule 3. Rule 3 is dependent on the electronegativity of the bonded atoms with respect to the central atom. So what does, okay, now a question may arise that why the lone pairs have a stronger effect than the bond pairs. You can ask a question that why the lone pairs have a stronger effect than the bond pairs. The reason for it is that you can see the lone pair is localized or concentrated only on the central atom. See, on these two lone pairs are concentrated only on oxygen because they are the electrons of oxygen only. But look at the bond pairs. The bond pairs are shared between the two atoms. This bond is formed by sharing of electrons between hydrogen and nitrogen. So bond pairs are basically the shared electrons between the two atoms. So the repulsion between the lone pairs is much greater than that between the bond pairs. Okay, now I'll come to rule 3. Rule 3 is Rule 3 will be explained with this only. Okay, now rule 3 is regarding electronegativity. Rule 3 is regarding electronegativity, or it's better I remove. These have become very clumsy. Rule 3 is depending on electronegativity. I will compare between ammonia and nitrogen trifluoride. Okay. Now, in ammonia, nitrogen is much more electronegative than hydrogen. Nitrogen is much more electronegative than hydrogen. So, if nitrogen is more electronegative, then what will it do? It will pull the shared pair of electrons towards itself. It will pull the shared pair of electrons towards itself. Means for all these bonds, the electrons are in this position. In all these bonds, the electrons are in this position, means near to the nitrogen. So, there will be repulsion between the bond pairs. The repulsion between the bond pairs will increase in case of ammonia. So, ammonia has 107 degree approx. I am not writing the exact values, okay. But for NF3, fluorine is much more electronegative than nitrogen. So fluorine will attract the shared pair of electron towards itself. So in case of NF bond, the electron pair is shared like this towards the fluorine. So the bond pair repulsion will decrease. And so, because of the presence of this lone pair, the bond angle shrinks, and this bond pair repulsion is also very less. As a result, it is around 102 degree approx. Okay, so this is about rule 3. There is a strong exception in rule 3 that can be explained by rule 4. So first we will come to rule 4 and then we will explain the exception of rule 3. So rule 4 is basically about bond multiplicity. Rule 4 is basically about bond multiplicity, and also it states that means the bonds, which means the pi bonds do not have any, or we can say like this, the pi bonds are not involved in determining the shapes of the molecules. Why pi bonds are not involved in determining the shapes of the molecules? Because pi bond, pi bond is generally formed by lateral overlap. I will come to these portions when I will show you the overlap of atomic orbitals and hybridization. I will come to these portions. Then only will understand that why pi bond is not involved. The pi electrons in formation of this is a sigma bond, and this is a pi bond. In the formation of a pi bond, the electrons that are involved in pi bond formation, they are not strongly held by the nucleus of the two atoms. That's why the pi bonds, means the pi electrons, are they cannot be considered for determining the shapes of the atoms, because they are not tightly held by the atoms. But sigma bond, in case of sigma bond, the electrons which are involved in formation of sigma bond are strongly held by the nuclei of the other two atoms. But there is a fact that the triple bond as well as the double bond, they occupy more space as compared to a single bond. You can understand that if there was a single bond, the space occupied is much less than when there is a double bond or triple bond. So a multiple bond means bond greater than one, means this is only single bond, but double bond, triple bond can be considered as a multiple bond. Multiple bond causes much greater repulsion as compared to the single bond. We can say that's why that multiple bond repulsion is greater than multiple bond single bond repulsion, which in turn is greater than single bond repulsion. Okay, now I'll come to the exception. The exception is PH3 has a bond angle of 94 degree, whereas PF3 has a bond angle of 98 degree. But according to rule 3, what we have known? We have known that in PF bond, since F is more electronegative, so electron pair will be towards F. In PH bond, since P is more electronegative, so electron pair should be towards P. It should be towards P, it should be towards F. When it is towards P, the bond pair repulsion is greater. But when it is 12F, the bond pair repulsion is smaller. So for this the bond angle should be small, for this the bond angle should be greater. But just the reverse occurs. Why? Because here in phosphorus we have vacant 3D orbital. In phosphorus we have vacant 3D orbital, or we can say incomplete 3D orbital. But in case of, and as well as fluorines have a complete 2p orbital. But in case of this hydrogen do not have a complete 2p orbital. So because of the presence of incomplete 3D orbital, I have to rub all this, because of the presence of incomplete 3D orbital in phosphorus and complete 2p orbital in fluorine, there is coordinate covalent p pi d pi bonding. Because of this, resonance occurs. Resonance occurs. We have other resonance structures also. We won't draw so many resonance structures. See, because of resonance, there is multiple bonding in PF3. Because of resonance, there is multiple bonding in PF3. We know that multiple bond repulsion is much greater than single bond repulsion. As a result, the bond angle, repulsion between the bond pairs will occur and bond angle will increase in case of PF3. So PF3 has a greater bond angle than PH3. So this is about rule 4. The last rule that we have is rule 5. Okay. The last rule that we have is rule 5. We will consider ammonia, and we will consider phosphine, means PH3. Okay. The rule states basically the unpaired electron pair which is present on a central atom, and the central atom must have incomplete valence shell. See, nitrogen do not have incomplete valence shell. 2s2 2p3, it do not have incomplete valence shell. But in case of phosphorus, we are having incomplete 3d orbital. Okay? That will cause a greater repulsion towards bond pairs or other lone pairs, that will result in the contraction of the bond angle compared to that of the ones which do not have incomplete valence shells. Now look at this. Nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, they do not have 3d orbitals. They do not have d orbitals. They only have filled 2s2p orbitals. But in case of phosphorus, silicon, sulfur, we are having the incomplete or vacant 3d orbital. As a result, because of the presence of the 3d orbital, there is a stronger repulsion of the lone pairs because they are getting the available space, no? So the lone pairs will cause a stronger repulsion that will result in the decrease in this bond angle. The lone pair will cause a stronger repulsion because of the availability of the vacant or incomplete orbitals. As a result, the lone pair bond pair repulsion will increase and the bond pair bond pair repulsion will be, again, we know that its magnitude is already lower than lone pair bond pair repulsion. So the bond angles will reduce to 94 degree. Whereas in case of this, we have a bond angle of approximately 107 degree. Okay. So this is about rule 5. That's why in phosphine the bond angles are much lower than that in ammonia. Because of the presence of incomplete 3D orbitals or vacant 3D orbitals in phosphorus, what happens? The lone pairs will undergo stronger repulsion because of the availability of a greater space. Okay? So these are basically the 5 rules of VSEPR theory. In the next video, I'll show you how we will find out the structures, or we can say the shapes of the molecules, covalent molecules, with the help of VSEPR theory. Okay, so thank you.